Good morning and welcome to another edition of This Week in Chaves County right here on Jack 106.5 FM and online at roswelljackfm.com. I'm Mike Jackson. Today we are talking with Marita Noon. She is the Executive Director of Energy Makes America Great. We've talked to Marita a lot of times this year about the Sand Dune Lizard. We are going to get into that, into our conversation today. But Marita, I know one thing that you wanted to talk about out of the chute was a vote that took place earlier this week in the U.S. Senate. The Senate voted by a count of 73 to 27 to eliminate a tax credit and tariff to subsidize ethanol production. And I was wondering if you could give us your thoughts on this vote.
Well, I find this to be a very exciting vote because it signals a change in the Senate's opinion. It signals a change in the public's opinion because senators don't take these votes if they think they're going to be beaten up by them. And if they feel that their constituents are pushing for a certain position, that's the direction they're going to tend to go. And that's one of the things that excites me is because on Tuesday, Energy Makes America Great, my organization, and several other organizations throughout the country who deal with such issues, sent out emails to their people. I have 7,000 plus people on my newsletter subscriber list. And we sent out notices to people saying, call your Senate. I asked for several calls, one to Harry Reid, which was to please bring this issue to a vote because there was talk out there that Harry would never let this come to a vote. So I encourage people, call Harry Reid and encourage him to let the ethanol issue come to a vote. Now, on Tuesday of last week, the ethanol issue was brought up by a Republican senator, and it failed at that time. The Republican Senator Corbin brought this up, and it failed. But what it did is it didn't fail by a huge vote, and that's what we were encouraging people to call. So people did call. I know people call on my newsletter that I send out. I can track who clicked on the Act Now button to get more information, and I know people did respond. And while the Tuesday vote failed, Corbin worked with Senator Dianne Feinstein out of California, who's a Democrat, and the two of them worked together, and on Thursday, Senator Dianne Feinstein's amendment to eliminate subsidies for ethanol passed. Now, the reality is this may, in reality, go nowhere. It's kind of more flag-waving than anything else. It's more theater than anything else. But it's a huge signal of two things to me. One is the change in attitude in the Senate. And the second thing is that calling your senators, calling your congressmen, letting your voice be heard does make a difference.
You know, I want to get to some things regarding this issue and also with the Sand Dune Lizard in just a second, but I would like to quote part of a press release that you put out on Friday, and I would like to have you maybe elaborate a little bit more on it, and I'm quoting you. It says, most people now realize that the global warming scare had nothing more to do, or had more to do with transferring wealth than the climate. The only climate that has changed is people's attitudes toward ethanol and all the crazy schemes like cap and trade that were supposed to curb CO2 emissions and so on. You know, it's interesting that you talk about this because now the Environmental Protection Agency is sorting at least everything that I'm hearing, and maybe you can elaborate on this. They're kind of looking at backdooring some of these ideas that have been defeated over the past couple of years, like cap and trade and that kind of thing. What can you tell us about what the EPA is trying to do right now?
Well, they are definitely trying to do that. This is still something that the Obama administration supports. I mean, it was one of President Obama's key campaign promises that he would get cap and trade passed. And cap and trade has not passed, and it never will. When President Obama and the Democrats were in charge of the House and then the Senate, that was the time that if cap and trade could have passed, it would have passed. And cap and trade did pass the democratically controlled House in June of 2009. But then, if you recall, and your listeners recall, in August of 2009, senators came home for their town hall meetings. You know, they came home to face their constituents, as they basically do every August at the August recess, they call it. And at that time, if you can remember back, 2009, those senators faced two things they had never faced before. And they both begin with the letter T. The first one was Tea Party. And basically what the Tea Party represents, it's not an organized entity, but really what it represents is an angry public who are mad at a government. And they are saying to the government, enough is enough. And these senators back in August of 2009 faced their constituents who were angry. And they faced their constituents in town hall meetings. And they went back to Washington with the attitude of, whoa, the people don't want this cap and trade stuff. And they never passed it. But yet the Obama administration and certain elements of the political machine still want these policies. What they really do is raise the price on energy to make the cost-effective energy sources such as oil, gas, and coal, and make those on a price parity with wind, solar, and ethanol, which were the darlings, but they're too expensive. And a recent poll shows that the public does not want to pay more than $10 a month more for these green energy possibilities. So they've lost favor with the public because the public has realized that they're going to cost more. So those who support these measures have now resorted to trying to kind of backdoor them through EPA policy and other administrative agencies to get through regulations that will achieve the same thing that the public told their representatives, no, we don't want this. So we as the public need to continue to be active and engaged in these issues.
All right, let's now go on ahead and talk about the Sand Dune Lizard. I know that a couple weeks ago you had a chance to visit our region. I know you were with Congressman Pearson. We had actually talked about in person briefly about some legislation that Senator John Cornyn of Texas is trying to get through regarding the Sand Dune Lizard. What's the latest you can tell us about this?
You know, this is a great thing. This is, again, very encouraging, and it reflects on the public's attitude and the public's tone. And by the way, it was great to see you in person, not just on the phone. Did you like your cookies?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed them very much, thank you. As did my coworkers, too, by the way.
Oh, you shared. That was very kind of you to share them with everybody. But back to Senator Cornyn off of my cookies. Senator Cornyn has taken a bold step here. And again, it has to do with that political climate, the tone from the constituents. And Senator Cornyn is from Texas, and he has put forth an amendment, and just like we were talking about with this ethanol amendment, he's trying to get his amendment attached to a bill. And I just spoke, earlier to Cornyn's office, and they said, you know what, we're going to keep pushing this thing. We're going to keep pushing this. And they have put forth an amendment that states that it specifically excludes the Sand Dune Lizard from being included in the 1973 Endangered Species Act. Now, again, this is a big deal because what has happened is these rallies we've been having there in the Permian Basin, the talking you and I have done with this, Mike, the articles in the paper, people have gotten engaged in this issue. And I have an article I wrote about this that people can find. I don't know if you've got it on your website. You can comment there. But if you go to the Energy Makes America Great Facebook page, which you can find simply by Googling Energy Makes America Great, and one of the first articles you'll find there is entitled, Put Jobs and the Economy First. And I assume, Mike, you can make sure that's on your website.
Yes,
when people hear this interview so they can go to that.
We will do that.
But this particular article addresses that and has specific links to some of the things. But because the people have engaged, Fox News has come and covered this. ABC has covered this. Governor Rick Perry has been talking about this. And so you see what has happened is the public has gotten engaged. Now, when I wrote this article, Put Jobs in the Economy First, that I'm mentioning, I called up people in California who run organizations kind of like what I run, only these organizations deal with the Delta smelt issue in California, where I'm kind of dealing with a lizard issue in New Mexico. And they gave me some very specific data and really applauded us for getting out in front of this lizard issue before it becomes listed. Because they were saying, you know, we got hit with this Delta smelt issue, and it cost us thousands of jobs in California. And so it's great that we in New Mexico and in Texas are addressing this issue and making a lot of noise about it before it becomes listed. And that has given Senator Cornyn political cover to stand up and make more noise about this issue and specifically say, you cannot list the sand dune lizard as an endangered species. Now, of course, the environmental groups such as the Center for Biological Diversity and the Wild Earth Guardians are up in arms about this, and they have also been attacking Congressman Pierce very heavily over his support of this issue. But if you could go back and look at the history of, for example, the spotted owl or the sand dune lizard, you would see that those issues did not have the public engagement that the sand dune lizard has. And we are engaged now because we can look at their history and go, whoa, 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 we don't want that happening in the Permian Basin. We don't want that happening in New Mexico. We don't want that happening in Texas. So we're attacking the issue head on.